Welcome to Infinity, the podcast about becoming your 2.0 self. I'm Danny, sports nutritionist and coach here at KDP Fitness, and here on this podcast you get the truth about what actually works, zero shortcuts and no easy way out. If you're ready to shut down your excuses, push beyond comfort and start building the strongest version of yourself, this is the place. Are we ready? Let's get stuck in. Hey, Danny here, the Infinity Coach. Thought I'd come through the lens today instead of coming through the mic, just to change it up a little bit and see how comfortable I get in front of the camera and how much you guys like to listen to me camera. Now, finding a spot in this place isn't hard, but it is hard as well. I've been searching for a spot in this place all morning, but we're here in front of my PC where I usually sit. So I thought, why not? Yeah, the PC is where I do my work and do my thinking. And you know, yesterday when I was writing my daily emails, so I write my daily emails and I send them out to our clients and our members. There's a few guys that get them and read them each day. It's amazing for me to write them, and it's also amazing that you guys engage and really read them and give me feedback and give us feedback about them. So yeah, last night when I was sitting here and I was doing my daily email, I was thinking about what I'm going to write about tomorrow, and it popped in my head that there's a voice in my head that's always there. Okay, so it's always there. It's there telling me. It's making excuses even when I'm doing a good thing. So if I'm doing something, training, if I'm resting, if I'm working, it'll always be telling me the opposite. And I always thought to myself, why am I always forcing myself when I'm resting to go do something? Why am I forcing myself when I'm working to go rest? Why am I forcing myself when I'm training to miss that rep? Okay, not that I'm forcing myself, but why is my head telling me to do that? And then I realized, the goal isn't for me to silence that voice, but to use it and refuse to obey it, okay? And that's what I've been doing. And I've pretty much been doing that my whole life. And I didn't realize that that's what drives me, that's what pushes me. It's that internal voice that keeps telling me, Danny, it's enough. It's not enough. And I keep saying to myself, it's not enough. There's more to it. There's more that I can produce. There's more that I can do. There's more that I want to do. And that voice is, it's my driving force. And it's just interesting. I got a bit of feedback today from the email that I sent out. And it's going to be interesting to see if you guys give me a bit of feedback too. But do you guys work like that as well? Or am I built a little bit different? Because my head never stops, okay? So I'm always thinking about something. I'm always driven. I'm always working with clients. I'm always working in here. My numbers come to me easy. Workouts come to me easy. Everything just comes to me. Is it the way I'm programmed, or is it the way most people are programmed? Or have I taught myself this? And this is where it's going to be interesting to see, can I, and I have been trying to instill this in my clients as well, trying to make them embrace that thing that they've got going for them. So let's see, and I want to talk about that discipline. That discipline from that voice sharpens my intuition and sharpens the way I want to be going through things. And there's another thing when it comes to me wanting to keep reminding my own head that I'm got more. It's tells me that that I won't quit. I'll never quit. And I think I've been told that many times to quit, that I won't quit anymore. Okay, unless I find that there's absolutely nothing left in that situation, or there's nothing left for me to gain from that situation, then I might move away and do something else. But if I know that my goal is fixated to it, then I'm going to keep going for it. And that leads me to the second point. The second point that I wrote in the email was also about excuses. It's not only the excuses that my head's making to me, but it's excuses that people are making regarding their own training, regarding stuff that they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so when it comes to excuses that I hear a lot, it's like, and it's not even, you might not call it excuse, but it might be things that you're setting in stone, which they need to be set in stone. So things like, my rest day is Thursday, or my rest day is Friday, and I hear that a lot. And I think to myself, why is your rest day Thursday? Why is your rest day Friday? Okay, what if your body tells you that Tuesday should be a rest day? Okay, what if you get to that point and you're exhausted, or you've trained hard, you've trained extra, more than what you normally do, or you've got to that point where you've had a killer training session, you've had the good meal, and you don't feel 100%. Maybe there's something going on in your life, of stress, or maybe you're just feeling ill or something. Why does Thursday have to be a rest day? Why can't Tuesday be a rest day? And that reverse goes to the opposite as well. Okay, so if Thursday I wake up and I'm supposed to have a rest day, but I feel absolutely incredible. Why wouldn't I train? Absolutely, why wouldn't I train? Why wouldn't I just pick myself up and go and smash out another session if I'm able to? Okay, so that's something that sort of triggers me and sort of makes me think, why are people going down that path and setting themselves in a position where it's a plan? Okay, now I will talk about plans and I'll talk about how they are structured with me. Okay, but if there's a plan and you can push more to it, I always suggest go harder. Okay, now when it comes to training and when it comes to doing work and stuff like that, it all comes down to the three pillars. Okay, so those three fundamentals that are so vital. If your nutrition is right, if your rest is right, and your mindset is right, why do you need to have a rest? Okay, now if one of those is failing or one of those is sort of limbering behind, then fair enough, you take a rest. That might be your Tuesday instead of your Thursday. So you take that rest and you do what you need to do. But if you don't need to do it, I wouldn't be doing it. Okay, no, I don't do it. That's where I'm trying to figure out where guys are at and why we're doing those sort of things. And and that again leads us into the third part. And that third part is plans. Okay, so with plans, and this is where structure, not a prison. Okay, I've got that written down. I just want to see that. So structure is not a prison. And that, when I wrote that and when I was thinking about that, it makes so much sense. Okay, so it doesn't mean you're locked in. It doesn't mean you're tied in. It doesn't mean that you're feeling stuck in structure. Okay, so if you've got a plan, this is the way I see it. If you've got a plan and you are planning to do something, for the week, and you've got a goal attached to it. Okay, so your goal is to get 5 sessions in this week or something. If you're failing, you must follow your plan. Okay, so if you've got things that are pulling you back, like your mindset or something, then you stick to that plan, you try to force it out and get through that week. But if you're flying and if you're in a position where you feel amazing, why would you let structure pull you back? Okay, that's where I sort of struggle to understand why guys sometimes say, okay, I've got a plan, I'm going to stick to it. And then, it makes sense for elite athletes. Okay, elite athletes have a structure, they have a plan, they've got to follow it because they want to be peaking at the right time. But just our mere mortals that, we train to be, to feel good, to be in a good mindset and to look good. And especially guys in our 40s, and I'm in my late 40s, I'm going to take every advantage when I can. And there's days when I can't, trust me. There's days when I can't, that I might just do a little bit or whatever. But the days that I can, I'm going to take advantage of. I'm not going to get stuck in that prison of structure, if that makes sense. I'm hoping that it does make sense. And now, we want to sort of, I want to be able to push myself to limits. Okay, I want to get uncomfortable. Excuses make us feel comfortable. So I want to get uncomfortable as often as I can. And that's the only way I know that I can grow. And I used to be the number one person that used to look for comfort. Okay, look for the most similar things, repeat the same sort of 6 months over and over again. But now I completely have changed my life, and I really just rarely want to stay in a comfort zone. I really want to push myself out. I want to get myself and test myself and see what I'm capable of. And that's the only way I feel like I'm growing and keep going and moving in life. And with that creates your purpose as well. And purpose, without a purpose, you've got no hope of surviving, even surviving life, but thriving in life. Okay, you need to have a purpose to thrive in your life. And and that's where the discipline of the uncomfortable and finding that uncomfortable and being disciplined, not motivated, makes the biggest difference. Okay, so you got to find your place and what you really want to focus on to be able to find that uncomfort. And that could be, with training, it could be with food. Like I've got a lady in here that has been training, and she's an absolute animal when it comes to training. She's a beast. Yeah, she trains so hard. She trains morning and night, but she's never cared about nutrition. Okay, ever tracked, always thought it's going to take her to an obsessive place, that she's going to get obsessed about it and going to be in a position where she's going to be just overawed by it and just feel like that the whole thing is just taken over her. She's been working with me only for a couple of weeks now, and even though she looks great, she's still got a little bit of fat to lose and to trim down by summer, and it just I've seen the transformation in her mindset and her uncomfortableness happen with her just by adding tracking of her food. Okay, even though she was eating great, she just never had an idea how much she was eating and how much she was getting in terms of protein and water as well. Okay, and just by changing a few things and making it become aware of it, she's actually starting enjoying it. She's not getting obsessed about it. It's not that it's a fear of becoming somebody who you aren't, or the fear of becoming someone that you think you might become. Okay, that might make a bit more sense. Yeah, and you can't, if you fear it, you're never going to do anything. You're never going to change. So you got to think, I'm not going to become that person, but I will become that person, the other person. So don't always think negative, think positive. Okay, so if that sort of, drill that into your head, that the change is a positive thing, not a negative thing. Don't look at it as I'm going backwards. Look at it, I'm always going forward. Okay, now some actions that we can take is write them down. When you get those excuses in your head, write them down. They always help me. So I've had, and this is where writing down and jotting notes I do all day. So I might get a note, an idea or an excuse or something in my head. I'll write it down, and then I'll deal with it through an email, or I'll deal with it with a reflection, or my gratitude tomorrow morning will be about that, so that I sort of evolve through it and find a way to push through it rather than to let it sit and dwell in me. Okay. What else have I've got is replace excuses with disciplined response. So that's another thing that I've written down here because I really wanted to focus on that. So replace excuses with a disciplined response. Wow, that's an amazing line just in that. So your excuse becomes a disciplined response, which is routine. Okay, so you know that you have to track, and your head's telling you, don't do it today. But you know that if you do it, it's discipline and it's consistency and it's routine. And that if you do it, it's going to bring you joy and happiness. Not only that, but it's going to bring you results at the end of the day. Okay, results come from consistency and discipline, and we know that. And we just got to keep pushing those little wins each and every day. We've got to keep going on those wins each and every day. Those little ones, okay, they're the ones. So that I don't feel like tracking, or I don't feel like tracking 100%, or I don't feel like having my glass of water first thing in the morning. I don't feel like having my electrolytes. I don't feel like putting my BCAAs in my drink. I don't feel like getting my extra protein shake. But you do them, and that's where the results come from. Okay, so excuses build comfort, discipline builds change. That's what we're finishing off with today. Excuses build comfort, discipline builds change. The 2.0 self version doesn't come from listening to excuses. It doesn't, okay? So if we want to become that 2.0 version of ourselves, we have to stop listening to excuses. It comes from disciplined choices. Just keep reminding yourself that. Excuses, discipline. Excuses, discipline. It's the opposite of one that leads to the other one, and the other one is the one that gets you results. Okay, that's Infinity for you today. That is a second episode, all about that voice that never shuts up, in my head anyway. It might shut up in your head, but I want you to keep thinking and pushing through those excuses. Have a great day, team.